I don't know when it started. Maybe it was the first time I woke up with my phone in my hand, unlocked, open to a text thread I didn't recognize. Or maybe it was earlier, when I began forgetting entire conversations, only to have someone casually mention them later, as if they'd happened. But last night, I found something that made me question everything. You're probably thinking this is one of those stories about sleepwalking or blackouts. It's not. This isn't about what happens to you while you're asleep. It's about what happens inside you. What if every morning you wake up just slightly different? And what if someone else is responsible? It all came to a head last week. I had been having these dreams, vivid, lucid, almost cinematic, but whenever I tried to remember them, they slipped away like smoke through my fingers. All except for one detail, a voice, a calm, steady voice whispering, "You'll forget again, but we won't let you forget forever." The first time I heard it, I thought it was part of the dream. The second time, I sat bolt upright in bed, heart pounding, convinced someone was in the room with me. No one was there. By the third night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. That's when I decided to record myself sleeping. I set up an old webcam on my dresser, pointing at the bed. Nothing fancy, just enough to see if I was talking in my sleep or moving around weirdly. Then I hit record and went to bed. When I woke up, the camera light was off. At first, I figured it must have malfunctioned. But when I checked the footage, it was worse than I could have imagined. The video starts normal enough, me tossing and turning, mumbling nonsense. Around 3:17 a.m., though, things change. My body goes still, unnaturally so, like I'm frozen mid-breath. Then I sit up. Not me exactly. It's harder to explain. The way I move isn't human. Stiff, deliberate, like a puppet being controlled by strings. And then I speak. Subject 42 to 7, the voice says. It sounds like me but wrong. Flatter, more mechanical. Reprogramming successful. Memory wipe complete. Proceeding to next phase. I rewound the video 5 times before I believed what I was seeing. That wasn't me. Not really. Someone, or something, was using my body to say those words. And whatever they meant, it terrified me. But here's where it gets worse. When I checked the timestamp on the video file, it said it was recorded 3 days ago. 3 days. Which means either the camera glitched and recorded some random footage from earlier, or someone tampered with it. Either way, I hadn't seen this until now. Until today. At this point, you might be wondering why I didn't call the police, burn the camera, or run screaming into the night. Honestly, I wanted answers, so I kept digging. That evening, I went through everything I owned, my laptop, my phone, even old journals, and found nothing unusual, just boring, everyday stuff. Except for one thing. Buried deep in my cloud storage was a folder labeled Backup. Inside were hundreds of audio files, each one dated and titled with cryptic names like Phase 3 Adjustment and Memory Anchor Test Number 12. Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on the most recent file. Static crackled for a few seconds, then a familiar voice spoke. My own voice, saying things I don't remember saying. "We've adjusted the parameters," it said. "Subject shows signs of resistance, but remains compliant. Recommend increasing dosage during REM cycles." Resistance? Dosage? REM cycles? None of it made sense. But the more I listened, the clearer it became. Someone, or something, has been altering my mind while I sleep. Reprogramming me. And whoever they are, they're getting better at it. By now, you're probably asking yourself the same question I did. Why me? What could anyone possibly gain from messing with my memories? But the real question, the one that keeps me awake at night, isn't why. It's how. Because if they can do this to me, who else are they doing it to? And then there's the bigger question. How much of who I am right now is actually me? Am I still the person I think I am? Or just the latest version of whatever they built? Every memory, every thought, every instinct, it feels real. But how would I even know? Before you dismiss this as paranoia, consider this. Have you ever felt like pieces of your life don't quite fit together? Like certain events seem hazy, inconsistent, or just off? Most people chalk it up to stress or bad memory. But what if it's not? What if somewhere along the line, someone changed something small, a conversation, a decision, a feeling, and you never noticed? Because here's the thing, I did notice. And now, so will you. I spent the next few days trying to piece together what was happening to me. But the deeper I dug, the more questions I found, and the less I trusted my own mind. Every answer led to another riddle. Every clue unraveled into a labyrinth of uncertainty. And then there were the dreams. They weren't just dreams anymore. They felt like intrusions. Like someone had hacked into my subconscious and planted fragments of their agenda. One night, I dreamed I was standing in a sterile white room. The walls stretched endlessly in every direction, smooth and unbroken except for a single mirror hanging in front of me. My reflection stared back, but it wasn't quite right. Its movements didn't match mine. It tilted its head when I stood still. It smiled when I frowned. And then it spoke. "You're not supposed to be awake," it said, its voice calm but edged with something colder. "This isn't your phase yet." "Phase?" I asked, though my lips didn't move. Somehow, I knew the word came from me. "What do you mean?" The reflection leaned closer, pressing its hands against the glass. "You've been resisting longer than expected. We underestimated how deeply rooted your sense of self is. But don't worry, it won't last." Before I could respond, the dream shifted. The room dissolved into darkness, and I was suddenly somewhere else, a forest at twilight. The air smelled wrong, too metallic, too sharp, and the trees seemed to pulse faintly, as if alive. In the distance, I heard whispers, dozens of voices overlapping, murmuring words I couldn't understand. Then, cutting through the noise, one clear sentence: "They'll take everything if you let them." I woke up drenched in sweat, heart hammering against my ribs. For a moment, I lay there staring at the ceiling, trying to shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Then I noticed something on my nightstand, a small, folded piece of paper I didn't remember putting there. It read, "Stop looking. You're running out of time." My blood ran cold. Whoever, or whatever, was behind this knew I was onto them, and they wanted me to stop. But stopping wasn't an option. Not anymore. Over the next week, I became obsessed. I stayed up late scouring forums for anything remotely similar to my experience. Most posts were dead ends, paranoid ramblings about government experiments or alien abductions. But one thread caught my eye. A user named Watcher13 described symptoms eerily close to mine. Fragmented memories, strange dreams, a growing sense of detachment from reality. Their final post sent chills down my spine. If anyone reads this, don't trust your own eyes. Whatever they're doing to us, it's bigger than we can comprehend. I think they're building something inside us. Something that will wake up soon. The post ended abruptly, followed by silence. Watcher 13 never logged back on. That's when it hit me. Maybe I wasn't the only one. Maybe there were others like me. People who'd been targeted, reprogrammed, used without their knowledge. If I could find them, maybe together we could figure out what was happening. But how? How do you track down people whose very identities might have been altered? Then I remember the audio files. Each one had timestamps and labels. Maybe, just maybe, those numbers meant something. I grabbed a pen and paper and started writing them down. At first glance, they seemed random. 42 to 7, 19 to 3, 65 to 12. But as I stared at the sequence, patterns began to emerge. Coordinates, dates, frequencies. I wasn't sure which yet, but it was enough to keep going. Using the coordinates, I plotted locations on a map. Some were scattered across the globe, others clustered unervingly close to where I lived. One point landed smack in the middle of an abandoned research facility 30 miles outside town. Abandoned, according to public records, but what if it wasn't? The drive out there felt surreal. The sun sank low on the horizon, casting long shadows over the empty highway. By the time I arrived, dusk had settled over the crumbling building like a shroud. Broken windows gaped like hollow eyes, and weeds clawed their way through cracked concrete. Everything about it screamed, "Stay away." Naturally, I went inside. The air inside was thick with dust and decay. Flickering fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting uneven pools of light across rusted equipment and overturned desks. But amidst the chaos, one thing stood out: a locked door at the end of the hallway. Fresh paint covered the frame, stark against the peeling walls. Someone had been here recently. I forced the door open with the crowbar I brought. Yes, I came prepared, and stepped into a room unlike any other. Rows of monitors lined the walls, each displaying live feeds of people sleeping. Men, women, children, all unconscious, all connected to machines via electrodes strapped to their heads. In the center of the room sat a console, glowing softly in the dim light. On the screen, a single line of text blinked steadily. Subject 42 to 7 located. Initiating override protocol. My stomach dropped. Before I could react, the monitors flickered and the faces changed. Now, instead of strangers, I saw myself staring back from every screen. Dozens of versions of me, lying motionless, wires snaking across their foreheads. Except, none of them looked exactly like me. Some were older, some younger. Some wore clothes I didn't recognize. Others had scars or tattoos I'd never seen. And then the voice returned, the same one from the videos, the dreams, the recordings. Only this time, it wasn't coming from a speaker. It was inside my head. "We warned you," it said. "Curiosity always leads to discovery, but discovery comes at a cost." "What are you doing to me?" I demanded, my voice shaking. "Who are you?" There was a pause, long enough to make me think maybe it wouldn't answer. Then, "You already know. You were designed for a purpose, and now it's time to fulfill it." The screens flashed white, blinding me. When my vision cleared, I was no longer in the control room. I was back in the sterile white space from my dream, standing in front of the mirror again. My reflection smiled, wider this time, and reached out a hand. "Come on," it said. "It's your turn to wake up."